Hey everybody, what's up? You're listening to the Savannah Zombie podcast, the podcast of author Josh Vasquez. That's me. I read a couple of book series, the Savannah Zombie Novel series, obviously, and then the North Pole Zombie series, and hopefully some non-zombie things in the future. But yeah, this is the podcast where I talk about all sorts of things between zombies, writing, books, and all sorts of nerdy subjects. This is the second episode, part 2, and I say part 2 because I've actually already recorded this episode once, and my microphone came out while I was driving, and about 30 minutes in, the audio just went super bad. And audio is really something that you cannot fix so much. So yeah, here I am recording it for the second time, and I'm hoping that the microphone stays in and nothing pops out as I'm driving home. I'm just now leaving Ant-Man and the Wasp. I just watched it with my nephew. It was pretty dang good. I enjoyed it. It's pretty on par with the first Ant-Man, and I think the most important thing about it is that it is it's a little bit of a breather after Infinity War. So Infinity War kind of got kind of depressing there at the end, and yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp is here to cleanse our palate until the end sequence. And so no spoilers yet, but I might talk about that at the end of the episode, so that way if you want to avoid spoilers you can. But yeah, go see it. It's fun. Paul Rudd's he's just hilarious. He's just so subtly funny too. It doesn't even take that much. He's just so great, and I've loved him since Mike in Friends and all the other stuff he's done. I Love You Man, and he's just a funny guy. Love Paul Rudd. So anyways, yeah, leaving the theater, and I will be driving, so you will hear the background noise of potholes and all sorts of fun stuff. My van is very rickety, so there will probably be some of that. But yeah, so doing this hands-free microphone, so you don't have to call the officials on me, because I'm not using my hands to record this. Nope. I am mic'd up and ready to roll. So one of the things about the podcast I wanted to do is be able to do this while I was driving home from work, which I did this past Thursday, and was super excited. I was going to listen to it on my way to work on Friday, and good thing I did, because like I said, that audio was messed up. So here I am recording it again for the second time, praying that the microphone does not come out and mess up my audio. If it does, well, I might just cry and quit this whole podcast thing. So, but probably won't quit it, but I definitely will have to rethink how I'm doing this, and it definitely won't involve me driving, which kind of sucks, because this was the free time that I wanted to use. And yeah, so I work in Pooler, which is just outside of Savannah, and so I came to see the movie today in Pooler because the theaters out here are just way better. It's closer for my nephew. So this is about the same amount of drive that I would have for a normal episode of me driving home from work. So episode number 2 of which I recorded the other day, I was just going to kind of go over the story of how I became an author, and just how I became a writer and involved in writing, and the Savannah Zombie Novel series and how it got its start. And so I did that this past Thursday, and I thought it went pretty good. There were some funny parts in there that I hate that, you're not going to listen to, which, I don't know, maybe I'll throw up together like an episode of outtakes or something like that as like a special episode one day. Because I'm sure there's probably going to be plenty of outtakes, but at the same time there might not be, because I don't plan on doing any editing with this. I really want it to be off the cuff and just raw. I felt like that's kind of been a little bit more personal for the listeners. Of course, the audio quality is not like it's not like studio quality, because I am in a van and I am in motion, so there's that. But anyways, yeah, so I have always kind of had a love of books, and that's something that has been instilled in me by my mother and then my grandparents, and I have just always remembered loving books and reading them. And I remember doing Pizza Hut's Book It program back in the day, where you read so many books and you got a free personal pan pizza, which now as a parent I look back on it and I'm like, that's great, because one, your kid's reading books, and two, they're getting food that you don't have to pay for. And as a parent, that is the kind of stuff that you're looking for. So yeah, that was pretty cool. And I remember that, and I wish they had a program like that for adults, because I read all the time. Well, I don't read as much as I used to, but I sure would like to. And if there was pizza incentive, I definitely would. I would definitely be reading for pizza. Yeah, sign me up for that program. Pizza Hut, make it happen. I want Book It for adults. And I'll still take a personal pan pizza, because those things are delicious, because they're still a deep dish. Well, it's not really a deep dish. It's a pan pizza. I'll take the pizza however you make it. Make it happen, Pizza Hut. Do it. So, anyways, I've always enjoyed books, and I've always kind of enjoyed creating books. I remember creating books with my dad. Basically, he would just ask me what he wants me to put on the paper, and then he would like draw the picture and like write it. And yeah, I had a couple of books, and it was just like simple stuff like, hey, my name is Josh Vasquez, and I like to eat pizza and stuff like that. And yeah, it was just very simple stuff. But I think I remember in, I want to say it was second grade, that I had the idea. I had the idea of writing a book series about a boy and it was like his sidekick, but the boy was like he was like part werewolf, and there would be 12 chapters in each book for 12 full moons, and then there would be 12 books in the series because there's 12 full moons, and I don't know, this whole 12 thing. But yeah, I had this idea for this book series. I never wrote anything of it, but I just had this idea of like this series, and like wanting to write it. I've always wanted to kind of like write a book. So when my family moved down here to Savannah in 1996, I was kind of sad. I don't know if I would use the word depressed, because now that I like look back on it, maybe I would use that word, but not so much. I don't know. I was sad. We'll just say that. I was sad because I had to leave my friends, I had to leave my home and what I knew. We didn't have any family down here, so it was basically just kind of like my stepdad's job brought us down here. And yeah, so part of me kind of coping with that was writing these stories. And in these stories, I would write my friends in, and they would be characters. And I remember one of these stories was based on, hey, a deer. I'm not going to edit that out, because that's real life. I just saw a deer on the side of the highway, and that's staying in there. I'm not cutting that out. That's just for you guys, and that's just for me. So anyways, I remember one of the stories I was writing with my friends in it. It was based off of like these Lego sets, and this was like back before Lego had like every imaginable property. They just had like their made up ones, and this one was like Aquanauts, yeah. And there was the Aquanauts, and then there was the bad guys were like the shark something. I can't remember what it was, but I love those sets. And anyways, I based these stories on me and my friends, and we'd go on these underwater adventures, and yeah. And I don't think I wrote like more than like a few pages. Like I make it sound like I wrote like this whole series, but it was really just a few pages, not too much. I've never really been good at like finishing projects. Each project in my life, it tends to get a little bit more. So I have gotten better. So fast forward to high school, 9th grade. It is the year 2003. So, no, actually it would have been 2002. So, it's Halloween time. Me and my friends are pretty excited about Halloween, because we're like it's like 9th grade, so you're like right at that age where you're getting too old for Halloween, but it's still fun, and you're trying to like hold on to that last little bit of childhood. So anyways, we were just like in the mood, and I was like, hey, let's write some like scary stories and all that. I think I'm the only one that actually wrote anything, but anyway, so I wrote like this, like 2 pages of this story, just like very short, and it wasn't even really a story. Like it was a horrible cliffhanger, and I look back on it now and I'm like, this is bad. But they were like, oh, this is good, because, you know, it had like inside jokes of like us and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, write some more. So I started writing this more, and at the time I was like super into the game Doom. So I started writing like this, what I guess you would call now fanfic, but I don't really know if that term was around back then, because like the internet was like nothing what it is now, and people, I don't even know if that was a thing back then, like, because it just wasn't something that you would look up and find. But there were some novels written based off of the original game Doom, and the first one kind of holds to the very loose storyline of the game, and then the second one kind of goes a little bit further and takes a little bit more liberty with it. And then the third one just goes off the rails. They go into space, and the fourth one is just nuts, and like it just completely goes away from the game, like, whatsoever. And anyways, I love those books. So here I am. It's Halloween. Well, it's like after Halloween now, but I'm writing like this fanfic story, and me and my friends at the time, I'm putting them in it. It's we're like characters, and everybody, like, there's like all these kind of inside, hey, more deer, and more inside jokes and all sorts of fun stuff. And they like it. They're like, you know, just keep writing more. So I think at the most I had like 42, maybe 44 pages, and yeah, I mean, it was good. I had like an outline of what I wanted to do with it and how much I wanted to write. And I think that was about the time that 9th grade ended. And one of my friends, she was in the story, she moved away. And 10th grade kind of took us in different directions. So none of us were really in the same classes anymore. And I just was never able to finish that story. And I would try over the years to try and finish it, because I thought it was a fun story, but just was never able to. So fast forward to senior year, 2006. It is probably the beginning of that year, 2006, and me and my buddy, Chris Stubbs, we are super into zombie movies. I remember watching The Night of the Living Dead at a young age, probably like 13. And I remember being home alone, and it was in the middle of the day, and I can't remember why I started watching it, but I started watching it, and I remember being just scared, so scared. In the middle of the day, nobody was home. I was like, somebody please come home. So I have been a fan of zombies for a long time. And anyways, me and my friend Chris, we were into zombie movies, and we liked all like the big ones at the time. Which I think 28 Days Later was out, and then I think the Dawn of the Dead remake was out as well. I think I had just got done reading not World War Z yet. I just got done reading the Zombie Survival Guide by Max Brooks, which I pretty much keep a copy with me at all times because I'm a huge zombie nerd. I have one in the back of the van right now in a red wooden case I made that says, in case of zombies, break glass. And there's a hatchet in there as well, so, you know, just in case. You never know when the zombie apocalypse is going to start. But yeah, so anyways, we're big fans of the zombie genre, and we watch like all of them. We watch like the bad ones too. And at this time, like, there's no Netflix, so we're going to the video store, we're going to Hollywood Video, and we're renting these things, and some of them are good, some of them not so good. But the one I remember in particular is just one of my favorites. It's whenever I bring it up, people have never heard of it, but it's great. It's called Hide and Creep, and it's basically about zombies coming into like this southern town, and like these like southern guys like have to take care of like all these zombies. It's super funny. It's very lowbrow humor, and it's also very tongue-in-cheek on some parts. It's like we know we're a low-budget movie, so we're gonna have fun with it. And I think that's one of the things that just drew me to that movie the most, was like, okay, you can make a low budget movie and be okay with it being a low budget movie. You just have to be okay with it. And I think that was like a huge light bulb moment for me. And both of us were like, we we can do something like this. There's worse movies out there. We can do a low-budget zombie movie and it'd be okay. Like, it won't be the best movie ever, but it'll be pretty decent. So we set out to make a zombie movie of our own. I wrote up a couple of outlines, 2 of them. I still have them. I still have the original notes in a folder. I'll post some pictures on Instagram if you follow me there. That's Ben Called, BENCALLED, which is just a name that I've used since high school. But that's another story for another time. I'll post pictures up there on the original notes so you can check that out. But yeah, I had 2 different outlines, and one was like an A script and one was a B script, and then I wrote a few pages of the script with the idea of like, we can take this and we can move the scenes around if we want to and change the feel of the movie. I think one was a little bit more hopeful at the end and the other one was not hopeful at all. So yeah, and we had notes. There was texting back then. Okay, so I'm not that old. I make it sound like it's so long ago, but technology has made it sound like it's so far ago. But texting back then was like, you pay for like each text. There was no like texting plan, so it was very expensive. So we did note passing the old-fashioned way. We wrote it down on paper and we passed it to the next guy. And yeah, so I have like a bunch of handwritten notes of us going back and forth talking about this. I wish I still had there was an audio tape that we did of a little thing we called the Zombie Monologues, and it was just basically us talking about zombie movies and talking about how we were going to make ours. But that is lost. That is lost somewhere. Some soul somewhere has probably stumbled upon that and like, these guys are idiots. But hey, anyways, that's out there. But yeah, so we were super pumped about this and we were excited and we were ready to do it. There was just 2 things in our way. One, we had no equipment, and I mean no equipment. We had no way of doing this. And what made that even harder was our problem number 2 is we had no money. And we were not a low budget movie, we are a no budget movie. And we had talks about like getting just like cheap cameras and just cobbling things together. But going back to like how technology has just changed so much over these past 12, 13 years. And like nowadays, like you can literally shoot a movie on your phone. Like it's been done. Like Zack Snyder just made a short movie in his free time using an iPhone and just a few different like devices with it. And it's really good. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. I feel like I had iron something in it. Anyways, look it up. It's out there. Zach, I'm just going blank on his name, even though I just said it. Check that out. You just fast rewind, get his name, because I am going blank right now. That's what happens when you don't prepare for these things. But, yeah. We didn't have that. We barely even had, like, mini DV cameras back then, which you had to hook up with a FireWire. You had to have a FireWire port, and it was just all this stuff that we just didn't have. Like, everybody has like these like amazing movie creating studios on their cell phones now. You can shoot the video, you can edit the video, you can put it out there on YouTube. And the avenues that people, and especially kids, like if you're interested in making movies, do it. Start doing it now because you have the ability to do it. You are at an age where technology and creativity are at such a critical point. You can do whatever you want. And it's the same thing with writing. So like, this is my inspirational message right now in the middle of the show. Kids, if you want to do something, freaking go out and do it. That's my advice. Chase your dreams. So yeah, anyways, we were unable to chase our dreams, and so our dreams died. They were dead. We just ended up not being able to do it. The project kind of just fizzled out. We graduated, kind of went our different ways. And yeah, that's pretty much what happened. Is it just stayed as notes, and I kept it in a folder, and it stayed in the closet for a while. One day, I kind of dusted it off, and I wrote a couple chapters out of the outline, and put it back away. And it was back away for quite a while until The Walking Dead came out on TV. And I remember watching that pilot episode, that first episode, the day it premiered. I was laying on my living room floor. My wife was probably doing something else because she wasn't into zombies. Just being blown away by the storytelling and just the scope of what they were able to accomplish on TV. And it just completely renewed my excitement for zombies and the zombie genre, because up until that point, like, it still was very much a subgenre. People weren't that interested in the zombies, and it just wasn't that big thing. I think the vampires were still pretty big at that time. I can't remember where Twilight was on the where they were at in their schedules, films and all that, but yeah. So me and a new friend, Avery, we were super into The Walking Dead, and we started getting into zombie movies, and we started watching all the old ones and stuff like that. And one day I was like, hey, I wrote a couple stories for this zombie movie that I had planned on making in high school, and I wrote a couple chapters of it, and you want to read them? And he was like, yeah, sure. And Avery's not really a big reader. He's kind of got ADHD. He's kind of like hyperactive and all that stuff, and his attention span's not really there. But I sent him those 2 chapters, and he was like, dude, I finished them. You got to write more because I got to know what happens next. So Avery was like beginning to push me to write this story, and I had the outline. So I altered it some. I changed it around. I wrote different characters in there, and I changed some things, and yeah. But the basic premise was basically our characters going from point A to point B to point A to point B. And it was very much kind of like Night of the Living Dead, where it's just like a focus on this small group of characters and how they survive in this situation. But of course the story evolved, and there was more characters and subplots. And as this story is evolving, I get this Christmas present. It is an Amazon Kindle. Well, the cool thing about Amazon Kindle is that they made the bookstore, the Amazon bookstore, so accessible on the e-reader. And you could literally just buy books in one click, which is probably a dangerous thing for someone like me who just loves books. But on the bright side, and thankfully for me and my wife, because there's a bunch of free books on there. So I was able to download a lot of these free books. There's a lot of free zombie books, which I found, and I was like, heck yeah. And I'm reading some of them, and I ran into the same issue that there is with zombie movies. Some of these are really good, and some of these are not really good. And it's not so much that the stories weren't good, it's that they just weren't very well put together. They weren't, like, there was like spelling errors and all sorts of different things in there. And I was like, this is crazy. How does this even get passed? And I started to look at it, and I started to realize that these books are all published by the author. They're all I would later learn to be called self-published. So I look into this thing called Amazon KDP, and basically what happens is you can write a book and publish it on Amazon yourself, and whenever somebody buys it, they pay you money. And I was like, what? That's crazy. And I'd always wanted to write a book, but never really thought about going through the process of traditionally trying to get it published. It was just kind of like always like a dream for me, not something that like I ever really planned on doing. So yeah, now that there was this way that you could kind of just put something out there, and hey, you have a book. So I finished up this zombie novel, and I really didn't plan on it like being anything big. I was just gonna publish it on Amazon and just let it kind of like do its thing. If it sold, it sold, and if it didn't sell, no big loss. I have a book out there. That's cool. I can say I'm an author. So when it got time to publish this, I was going to publish it in October of 2013, I think it was. And So I think like the month before, I cobbled together a website. I got like a Twitter page just for that, and I think I made a Facebook page at the time, like a group, and just tried to do all these different things where I could get the word out there. I shared it with my friends and family on Facebook, and yeah, I was like, hey, you know, like I'm writing this book. Even if you don't read it, it means a lot to me if you buy it and stuff like that, and it helps me out a great big. But at the same time, I'm also like, hey, if nothing becomes of this, it's no big loss, you know. I put it out there. It is what it is. So I published it, and it was super exciting. It was just like, it was just crazy, because now I could like pull up my Kindle and boom, I'm reading a book that I wrote, and it was just crazy. So I published it on Amazon, and I published it on Barnes & Noble's Nook, because they also had a kind of a self-publishing deal that you could do. It didn't do so well in the Nook, so I think after a couple months I pulled it off, just because the ecosystem in Amazon was a lot better, and there was a certain amount of perks that you could get if you're just invested in the Amazon ecosystem. So I was just like, you know what, I'm going to pull it off the Nook. But at the same time, I realized that through Amazon, they have what's called Create Space, and it allows you to make your own print books. So here I am. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to pull it off the Nook, but don't worry if you don't own a Kindle or a Kindle e-reader device, or the Kindle app on your phone. I'm going to make a paperback version. So I set out to do that, and the coolest thing was when I got that first box in the mail of proof copies, and I was holding in my hand like something that like it didn't exist before. Like I just like these are the words that like I came up with and stuff like that. It was just very surreal, very cool. If you're an author, you know what I'm talking about the first time you actually like hold your book. And if you are a aspiring author and a budding author, just know that like it's super cool when you finally get to, like, the e-reader and the ebook was cool, but like the actual print book, super cool. So yeah, you have that to look forward to. And so anyways, people started reading this. I started getting reviews on Amazon, and people, you know, liked it. For the most part, all my reviews were positive. And so I had ideas of where the story would go next. So I wrote a short story, and it kind of, it was actually a lead into the next book. So I was writing that, and I came out with A New Darkness the following year. And basically I had planned a trilogy. I wrote another short story about one of the main characters in the book, Lex, and that came out, and I have been working on book 3 ever since, and I've been promising it, but recently on the episode of Muses, Memoirs, and More, I guess I outed myself and said, like, look, I'm going to have this book ready. I'm going to have it ready for the Savannah Quill Book Convention, which is in October. It's going to be there. I'm going to have it done by then. So that's my goal. I just got to get my butt in the seat and finish it. So if you're a reader and you've been waiting patiently for book 3, I just want to say thank you. It means a lot. And it's coming. I promise it's coming. And if you go back and you listen to that episode of Muses, Memoirs, and More, you will hear me hint that it could possibly be 2 books. Like it's very big in scope compared to the first 2 books. Like it's almost really, it could be split into 2 books. I'm undecided, so you might just be getting 2 books in October. I don't know, maybe, we'll see. And after that, I'm going to be writing the second episode in the North Pole Zombie series. I have a title for it. I've already got the cover made. I'll probably put it up for pre-order 3 months out from November, and it's called North Pole Zombies, Mrs. Claus Strikes Back. So basically, if you've read the first one, you kind of know what that's about, and I don't want to spoil it, but yeah. So I got a lot on my plate now with this podcast, and I've got a YouTube channel that I'm trying to keep content going on, which it takes a little bit longer with video, but I'm trying to be as quick and as effortless with that as I can. This podcast is one of those ways of kind of helping out. You'll notice that I'll put these episodes on there, so if you have somebody that wants to listen to it and they don't have like a podcasting app or listen to it any other way, they can always check it out on YouTube. It's there for their listening pleasure. But yeah, that's kind of how I got to where I am now. As an author, there's definitely, a lot more stuff on there. If you're a budding creative, if you are a writer and you want to be an author and you want to write a book, head on over to my Facebook page. I think it's just Savannah Zombie Novel. Just go over there and yeah, drop me a line and let me know what you got in the works, what you want to do, and yeah, I'd love to hear your story. So connect with me there. Like I said, I'm on Instagram too, is Ben Called, BENCALLED. So yeah, that's up there, and of course, there's the website, SavannahZombieNovel.com, and you can always reach me at josh@SavannahZombieNovel.com. But yeah, this is the second episode of the podcast, Savannah Zombie Podcast. I'm super excited because it looks like I didn't have any issues with the mic, and so yeah, that's great. So that's it for episode number 2. I am going to talk a little bit about Ant-Man and the Wasp, but there may be spoilers ahead. I'm not really sure, so just a big spoiler warning. Stop listening here if you haven't seen the movie yet. If you have, feel free to keep listening, and you can talk to me about that. I'm trying to think of what the safest place would be. Probably just drop me. I'll make a post on the Facebook page, and it'll just put spoiler warning on there. And yeah, so Ant-Man and the Wasp was really good, like I said, because I don't know if I said it in this or the video that I made for this, but it was really good because Infinity War was so bleak at the end, and it was such a bummer. So Ant-Man and the Wasp, which takes place in between Civil War and Infinity War, was just a palate cleanser. It was funny. It was funny in all the right places. Paul Rudd's great. And the whole cast is great. Even Michael Douglas, he's just knocking it out of the park, and it's like every single person in this is just so subtly funny. It's great, except for Michael Pena. He is it's just over the top. The whole Louise story, which if you remember from the first one, those were like some of the funniest parts. And if not, the funniest part in this is when he gets the truth serum and he just starts blabbering on and on and on. It's great. I loved it. Even like the minor characters in this movie, they take great care of just making them like characters in their own, which I love the ex-cons and how they're the security force now. It's just hilarious. But yeah, I have tried to avoid reading things about it because I really wanted to see it and not be any kind of like spoilers and stuff like that. I did see like one headline where they're talking about Ghost being like not a great villain. I think it was actually like a post on Instagram, but I don't know. To me, I didn't really see Ghost as a villain. I mean, yes, she did bad things, and 2, she was kind of like the foil to the heroes, but an actual villain, I wouldn't say she wasn't like a bad guy out to set the world on fire, and destroy the world. She's no Loki or, Hela or Killmonger. She's just trying to save herself, and she just got mixed up in this whole thing because of Hank Pym's technology. And of course, the story that she remembers might not be the actual story, or maybe Hank Pym is kind of just covering for himself and he's not giving us the full story. But yeah, I didn't really think she was a villain, so I don't really think she's a bad villain. But I did think she was a great foil and a great antagonist for the heroes. I really enjoyed the scenes where Ant-Man and the Wasp teamed up, and I thought Evangeline Lilly, right? Lily Evangeline? I'm going blank. But I thought she did a great job as the Wasp, and I really enjoyed her on screen. super bummed about the end credits sequence. And so, like, this is like major spoilers if you haven't watched the movie. Again, stop here. It gets bleak again. Freaking Marvel, why? Why did you do this to us? So, in the end credits sequence, if you've seen it, you know that Ant-Man shrinks down to the quantum realm again. He's in there. He's gathering up healing quantum energy for their new friend Ghost. And then what happens? Freaking Thanos snaps his fingers and Janet's gone. The original Wasp. Hank Pym is gone. The original Ant-Man. And now freaking the new Wasp, Hope, she's gone. So everybody's gone except for Ant-Man. And he's stuck in the quantum realm. What the heck, Marvel? Why? Why? So bummed. I'm so bummed about Infinity War. I haven't talked about that on here because I started the podcast out of that, and I didn't know if it'd make sense to go back and talk about it, but freaking why, Marvel? Why? Playing with my heartstrings. I don't like it. So now we have to wait until Captain Marvel comes out next year. Oh my gosh. I think it's in March. Why? Why, Marvel? Why? So, anyways, I don't want to end this episode on such a bummer note, but yeah, that's that. Yeah, if you could leave me a review on whatever you're listening to this podcast on, that'd be great. I'd really appreciate it. Stars and stuff, especially on Apple Podcasts, because apparently on Apple Podcast, when you get the reviews and the stars, it makes the good things happen. I'm not sure what that really means, but that's what I've been told by much better podcasters than myself. So yeah, I'm getting home. I think this audio worked out great, so I'm super psyched about that. Hopefully it didn't mess up anywhere. If it did, you guys are just going to have to bear with it, because I'm going to do my best to fix it and put it up, because I cannot record this episode again. You can only tell your story so many times. I've told it in all the other different formats, but here it is, podcast. Yeah, guys, I appreciate it. I appreciate you listening. I want to do a quick word from our sponsors. And our sponsors for this show is, actually, there are no sponsors. I made that up. I don't have any sponsors. But if you're interested in sponsoring the Savannah Zombie podcast, hit me up at josh@savannahzombienovel.com, and we'll look into getting you sponsoring this episode. So since I don't have a sponsor, I'm going to make up one, but it's not really me making up one. This is an actual thing. But it is the Savannah Quill Book Convention, and it is run by my buddy Adam Messer, who does the Muses, Memoirs, and More show. But yeah, he started this, and it's about bringing authors and book lovers and bringing authors and readers together. And the whole goal is to promote literacy. We did our first annual one last year, so the second one is coming up in October. I believe it's October 20th. I will post the actual date in the show notes, because I'm pretty sure it's the 20th, but I can't remember for sure. But yeah, it is going to be fun. There's going to be authors there, books. There's going to be kind of like a little mini Harry Potter mini-con kind of deal in there. There's going to be an after party with DJ Obi-Wan Benobi, and yeah, he's pretty famous for doing the purple parties, but I'm not really sure what exactly he's got planned for that, but it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be awesome. Go to savannahquill.com and check that out. And it's a great convention, and it's about books and about people who love books, and we really want to get to the point where we can help and promote literacy. So yeah, go support that. And that's it. So thanks for listening. Hey, my wife and daughter are getting home, so yeah, cool, perfect timing. All right, see you later, everybody.